automated communication. I have just a couple quick notes here before we get started. The session is going to be recorded, and we'll send that out to your inbox here in the next 24 hours. And we've also left some time at the end of the session for question and answer, so feel free to submit questions as we go. We're really excited to have everyone on today and talk about marketing automation and how to get authenticity in our efforts. My name is Megan Sandrowski. You'll see a brief bio for me up on the screen. I'm an inbound marketing strategist here at Converge. And this can kind of tell you what I do here, but essentially I work on inbound marketing campaigns and digital projects for various content optimization systems and automation software. I'm really excited to have Lee Fitzgerald of HubSpot on with us today. She's going to share in the conversation. So I'll let Lee go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. This is Lee. I'm a principal inbound marketing specialist over here at HubSpot, and I work on our dedicated higher education team. So I've been working with colleges and universities for the past 3 years or so here at HubSpot, and we are a marketing automation platform based here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Great, thanks, Lee. So let's go ahead and get started by talking about why we're all here today. Marketing automation, it's a huge buzzword in higher education and across all industries, really. And for good reason, right? We're all very busy. The infographic in pink on the right kind of shows 24 hours on the internet. And I recently stumbled across this and thought it was really, really interesting. And it actually might be a year or two old now. So if you can imagine, these numbers are probably even bigger. So 294 billion emails are sent every day. 2 million blog posts are written, and 4.7 billion minutes are spent on Facebook. Wow. As digital marketers, we're tasked with this responsibility to keep up with all of that. And we have to create, manage, and measure, and really work at that fast pace. Ergo, this conversation around marketing automation. So before we get too far into the tactics of authenticity and automation, we think it's really important to define what marketing automation means in this context. So what is it and what isn't it? I'm going to let Lee jump in here on the next few slides and kind of discuss that a bit further.
So like Megan said, marketing automation has become a little bit of a buzzword, and I'm finding that a lot of schools I've been speaking to have been coming to HubSpot because they've been tasked to getting a marketing automation platform. So like Megan said, let's first start by defining marketing automation and exactly what it means. So at its best, marketing automation is a tactic that allows schools to nurture prospective students with highly personalized and useful content that helps convert inquiries into applicants and applicants into enrolled students. To set up a good marketing automation strategy, think about it like growing a plant. First, you'll need the soil, which is like our content. Next, you'll need the seeds themselves to care for, which would be your prospective students. And then you need water and light for those seeds to grow, which would be your automated messages. The reality, though, is that marketing automation, like we said, has become a little bit of a buzzword. Marketers are seeking out platforms, put them into place, and then forget about all of the other steps that we have an effective strategy. So what ends up happening, I'm finding, is that schools will continue to purchase lists, automate all of their messages, and the consequence of that is that you eventually start sending unpersonalized messages, really kind of overpowering messages to prospective students, which will make your list a lot smaller and eventually start killing that little plant that you're trying to grow. So think about it like in the plant analogy, we're using artificial chemicals to grow those plants, artificial messages, so to speak, to grow as fast as possible, and then they end up dying. So first we need to take into account the evolving needs of our prospective students and their behaviors and interactions that you have across all of your marketing channels, not just email, and then use behavior inputs from those channels, such as social clicks, viewing website pages, or consuming particular pieces of content. This will give you the context that you need to fully understand a prospective student and then how to guide them down your funnel. So let's talk about when it makes sense to put a good marketing automation strategy into place. These are some of the things that I would think about. First and foremost, do we have a steady flow of prospective students coming in through our website? Again, this is kind of the, difference between purchasing lists and automating those messages to purchase lists, or automating messages to inbound prospective students, people that are converting on your website. So next, I think that it's very helpful to have a conversation with admissions and see where they are. Are they totally overwhelmed with the number of inquiries that they're getting and they don't have time to personally follow up and create that relationship with every single one of them? And again, also you want to talk with admissions and make sure that you have agreed upon exactly when should marketing happen and when should admissions communications happen, and have a good, we call it an SLA here at HubSpot, a good strategy both with marketing and communications and admissions. Next, you definitely need to have a good content strategy in place mapped to the student journey. So where is that prospective student in your funnel, so to speak, and where do you want them to get to next? Also super important to, like I mentioned before, make sure you're tracking all of the quote-unquote digital body language of your prospective students. So do you have a way to see if they're engaging with you on social, on landing pages, on email, on search engines, etc.? And then do you have a proven nurturing strategy that you want to scale? This isn't necessarily a need to have. Obviously, you can work on your proven strategy or make a strategy proven, so to speak, and try and scale it up when you do have a platform in place. But I find that the schools that put marketing automation into place that are really successful already have a good strategy, and they just want to scale it and make it more powerful. So Megan, I think that you should talk a little bit about how to make those automation campaigns really authentic and exactly how it can be done.
Thanks, Lee. So now that we've kind of established what marketing automation means and how we're defining it for this context, let's dive into this conversation around authenticity and automation. So like we've kind of prefaced over the introductory slides, content is everywhere, and we can try really hard to keep up, but we all need a little help sometimes. So marketing automation is the tool that helps us communicate authentically with that broad range of user audiences that we have to kind of get content to. Today we're going to walk through ways to make that automation feel personal, and we're going to do this by knowing our target audiences and addressing their specific needs. So when we know those audiences and their motivations, we're able to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. And this is essentially what marketing automation is designed to help us do. It allows us to have our cake and eat it too. So you'll see up on the screen now just a quick overview of the next few slides we're going to be discussing. The presentation is going to cover ways to make automation feel more authentic, including user personas, segmenting content on social media and in emails, communication maps and workflows, the strategy behind marketing automation. And we're also going to share a couple case studies with you that really highlight great success stories on how authentic automation has worked for a couple of schools. And we'll leave you with kind of tips to keep in mind as you're thinking through ways to make marketing automation work for your school. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by talking about user personas. You'll see a sample persona here to the left. And personas are amazing benchmarks for segmentation. And they're personally one of my favorite tools to use when planning marketing communications, and especially with marketing automation strategies. They also help us kind of think through content development across a variety of mediums and channels, which just makes them a really great tool for any digital marketer. Basically, we use these tools to segment and deliver that right message to the right audience at the right time. And they're really important for marketing automation, especially in higher education, because we have this huge range of target audiences to reach, from prospective students on our website to speaking to current students in emails, to parents, and content that's going to get donors to make a gift. We have a variety of audiences, and the list could probably go on forever, as you know. So personas really help us think more clearly about those audiences and their unique goals, challenges, interests, and motivations, so we can speak to them specifically. Personas are, again, hugely important in all marketing efforts, but especially with marketing automation. So Lee's going to talk to us a bit now about how to use personas.
I think that it's really important to keep in mind that these personas should be hyper-focused on the prospective students that we're trying to attract. You don't want to just have it grouped as prospective student, alumni, parent, and just those major groups, you want to get really, really, really specific. So literally think of a fictional person that we can create that our admissions people would love to have on the other side of their desk being talking to them about potentially applying. So a couple good places to start. Focus groups are obviously super helpful if you can talk to current students and ask them, and then over here on the right, you'll see what to think about. So ask them what's their background, what types of towns are they from, age will be pretty obvious to see if they're like an undergrad student, but if they're a transfer student, are they coming over as a junior, a sophomore, a freshman? What are their common questions and concerns? Get some quotes from them, get some real goals that they have so that you can use that information to create the content that would really resonate with that ideal student. You can also look at historical data. It's really helpful. So if you can go back and look at, the average age of a student that you've had apply, again, that kind of is relevant to the specific programs you have, if it's undergrad or a non-traditional student. Something really interesting to do also is to create negative personas, which would be the unideal person that you're trying to attract. So who do we not want to have apply? And that's not necessarily something that's going to help you convert traffic or attract more traffic, but it is a way to create the right message for that negative persona that would still resonate with them. You still want to be helpful, you still want to be useful, but maybe point them in another direction. You could also use surveys as a way to understand who your ideal student is. Again, you can send those out to current students and just ask for a little bit of information. Or if you can work with your admissions teams to even send out surveys to inquiries or current applicants that maybe aren't enrolled yet and just get a sense for who's actually applying. Obviously, you can use application data as well there. And then, like I keep emphasizing, super, super important to have a good relationship with admissions and marketing and communications. You want to make sure your messages are matching up, that you're answering questions that they typically get during the admissions process proactively in the marketing process. And then ideally, the admissions team will be getting inquiries and applicants that already have a lot of their questions answered because you've teed up a lot of answers that they have through the content marketing process. But the more information, the better. So just keep asking questions, keep learning a little bit about who you want to be attracting to the school. And so next we'll talk a little bit about how to use those personas for segmented content.
Okay, so let's dive into the benefits of personalized messaging and marketing automation. So it's more than just emails these days. There's software and tools that can help us automate social media posts, digital advertisements, content offers, and yes, of course, emails too. In theory, if we wanted to, we could automate a good majority of our marketing efforts. But just because we could do something probably doesn't mean we should. So segmented content allows us to communicate our automated messages really strategically. So on the right channels for those previously defined target audiences through those user personas. And why do we need segmented content? Well, because that's how you make automation feel authentic. Hi, how's it going is maybe something you would write to a student versus hello, how are you today? Really thinking about our word choice and the way we're conveying our messages. Because if you know your audience, you can really speak to them in a way that feels genuine. And as we know, if we're familiar with those audiences and their interests, we're able to create that personalized message and content offers that really addresses them in the way that they expect to be addressed at the right time. So segmentation is truly the backbone, I believe, of authenticity and automation.
So now we're going to combine those two concepts. So first you want to create your segments, obviously. At the top here, these arrows are what we call the student journey or the buyer's journey. But just keep in mind that there's different stages that a persona would go through before they're actually enrolling in your program. So first and foremost, there is the awareness stage. This, I think, is a big thing that I see schools struggle with, especially from the conversion point of view, is to really try and think about how you can convert a website visitor into an actual contact, a real person, understand who those traffic numbers, who those people actually are when they're just in the awareness stage. that would be like someone, so in this example we have up here, we've got two personas. High school Henry, which is actually kind of going against what I said earlier. You want to be super, super specific. That's a little general, but just for the sake of an argument, high school Henry is a high school student going right up into a traditional undergrad school versus transfer Taylor, who would be someone who's probably a junior or probably actually, sorry, a freshman or a sophomore thinking about transferring. They're going to go through an awareness stage of thinking about going to school, thinking about even inquiring. So you want to try and map the content to the awareness stage. What are the questions that we're trying to answer to those two personas? And what type of content can we offer them to convert them and then nurture them to eventually get to the consideration stage? Consideration stage, obviously asking a few more specific questions. What do I want to major in? What size campus is right for me? Transfer Taylor is probably wondering, are my credits going to be good? What do I need to do to actually move campuses? Like, what time of year do I want to do this? So on and so forth. And then what type of content can we create there to get them to the decision-making stage? So overall, you just want to think about, obviously, your funnel, very similar to your admissions funnel. Keep in mind you need to have a marketing funnel as well to get those inquiries over to the admissions team to then put into your application funnel. But using your personas plus the segmented funnel will allow you to really personalize that content and make sure that it's matching up with the right person. And then those are obviously the types of messages that people really enjoy getting because ideally they're going to be very helpful to that prospective student in helping them make a decision.
That's great. So thanks, Lee. Now that we've covered personas and that personalized messaging that we get with segmented content, we need to put some strategy behind our marketing automation tactics. And that's where communication maps and workflows really come into the picture. So what is a workflow? Workflows help us strategize communication points. They're kind of the strategic plan for how we execute all of these marketing efforts, especially with marketing automation. We want to make sure all of our efforts are kind of working together, not against each other. Workflows and maps help us create that consistent touch points and strategic conversion points for our users as they kind of go through that enrollment journey. So as we map out a communications flow, we really need to define our goals. Are we building our prospect pool? Do we need more applicants? Where are we really focusing those efforts? And how does our marketing automation complement those efforts? So if we answer these questions, we're really able to spend our time wisely and hopefully show that ROI for the goals that we're setting. Why do we need maps and communication flows? Simply put, we want our users to take voluntary action. We want them to request information, start an application, download content, etc. Depending on what your school is seeing challenges with, maybe if you're not generating enough inquiries or you need a different conversion point on your website, your goals might be different. So basically, you want to figure out how someone's going to get put into the workflow, where it starts in that map that you create. And sometimes it's easy to get really focused on the CRM piece. But are there additional conversion points that we could be focusing our efforts on? Basically, we want to develop a workflow to nurture these students through the enrollment journey. So the why of your workflow really depends on what your problem is and the strategy you develop to kind of address that problem. And ultimately, we need workflows because they help us achieve the goals that we set for our marketing efforts by getting prospects from point A to point B. So Lee's kind of talk through how.
Yep, so just like Megan said, I think one of the first things that you need to identify once you're ready to set up your workflow or your drip email campaign is where are we going to start? So first, like we've been talking about, I think you need to identify where someone is in their journey, meaning are they in the awareness stage, are they in the consideration stage, the decision-making stage, and what persona are we speaking to? So there's a few ways that you can gather this information. I think the best way is on a conversion point, asking them some of those questions. And obviously, we're not going to have them do a drop down for which persona are they, but I saw one school do a really good job with this, asking just what best describes you, and having a drop down. Obviously, we don't want it to be a text field, but just having a drop down so that they can self-identify, yes, I'm interested in transferring. yes, I'm a high school sophomore, yes, I'm a high school junior, and giving them the options that you want to eventually bucket them in.
Sorry, guys. It sounds like we might have lost Lee there for a second. Lee, are you back on?
Yep, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, where did I drop off?
I think it was just a couple seconds.
Okay. Okay, so in terms of, so we talked about how to identify the persona. In terms of how to identify where they are in their journey, I think that you should look at what type of content they're consuming. So, for example, if someone is inquiring, I would say that they're a little bit further down in the funnel or in the stages than someone who's just downloading content like a white paper or maybe coming to an admissions event. So that's number one. Number two, you want to identify how someone's going to be enrolled in your quote-unquote workflow. Is it going to be when they meet a certain set of criteria, when they're converting on a landing page? You just want to figure out when someone will be put into it. Then once someone is in your workflow, obviously, like Megan was talking about, mapping the content in that workflow to really resonate with that prospective student. So matching, again, the persona and where they are in their life cycle journey. And then this is my favorite, to decide on a goal for that workflow, because you're going to need to remove someone from the workflow eventually. It probably won't happen at the end. Obviously, you want to tee up your calls to action in your emails to try and get someone to take an action throughout your workflow. Again, going back to the goal, whatever it may be. It might not always be apply. You don't want to be sending marketing automation campaigns saying apply, 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 apply. You want to create baby step conversion points. And then once someone takes that conversion or converts on that landing page or call to action, they're going to be going into a different stage in the journey. So you need to start a different workflow. So that's my favorite thing, because you don't want to, obviously, our biggest fear is to be communicating to someone who's already taken the action that we've asked them to take. So make sure you know when someone and how someone will get removed from the workflow. So next up, let's talk about some case studies and what this looks like actually in action.
So what I have up on the screen right now is user personas from our friends at American University. So they've done a great job of using personas to strategically plan and segment content for their inbound marketing pilot program. It involves marketing automation within Ellucian Recruiter, as well as content changes on their website and landing page efforts. So we created these really great programmatic user personas for 4 very different, distinct graduate programs. The career-changing creative you'll see on the left was for their MFA in creative writing. The middle persona, the healthy lifestyle enthusiast, was for a health science program, and the tech and music wonk was created for their MA in audio technology. So they generated a really great email communications flow to speak to each of these audiences. So you'll see on the screen to the left the post-inquiry, post-application, and post-deposit follow-up plan that they're implementing into Ellucian Recruiter. It's a really great way to deliver the segmented messaging that you'll see on the right. By persona, we've created this sort of customized brand messaging that we're integrating into the communications plan. Because we've interwoven this automation with phone calls and those human-to-human touch points, it really has that all-important layer of authenticity that we really need to make sure we integrate into our marketing automation plans. So American University is doing a fantastic job of thinking about inbound marketing, thinking about automation, and bringing all of these tactics full circle with a really well-thought-out plan. The second marketing automation success story I wanted to share with you guys today is Winterland Global Skills Program. So they're a relatively new gap year program, and they have a pretty small team, but they're still leveraging HubSpot's content optimization system to kind of manage a post-inquiry follow-up with their students. Their team has done a phenomenal job of leveraging personas and building a marketing automation plan through HubSpot that truly complements those recruitment and enrollment efforts that their team is working on. What you'll see on the screen now is personas. We've segmented these by parent, high school senior, international students, as well as college students. And this has really helped their marketing and recruitment teams work with those most qualified leads as we've been interacting with these students in a post-inquiry follow-up through that automation. They've seen some truly amazing results from their inbound marketing efforts. Here you'll see on the screen just a couple examples of the emails and the digital ads that we've been running. These emails are delivered again in that post-inquiry follow-up. So just to show you kind of the effort that comes from setting up a really great marketing automation strategy. Since 2015, they've gained a great social media following. They've generated several leads, and they've used automatic follow-up to kind of move their students through the funnel to more qualified leads. From there, their recruiters took over, and they've generated over 30 new applicants and an overall 450% increase in website traffic. So those are some pretty cool numbers to see in such a short window of time. You'll also see on the screen in front of you some of the engagement metrics from their college student email workflow in HubSpot. One of the automated emails has a 15.9% click rate, which I think is pretty cool. So Winterland is a true testament to the benefits of authenticity and personalization in marketing automation. And since they've been measuring those automated efforts, they're able to really strategize ways to improve them with A/B subject line testing, various content and links of workflows, just for continuous improvement through HubSpot. So now that we've kind of covered our bases and shown you some case studies, we'd like to leave you with some great tools and tips and takeaways to apply to your own marketing efforts. So, of course, we need to define our target audiences. And this is what Lee and I were kind of talking about in the persona segment of this presentation. Once you do this, you'll really be ready to deliver the right message to the right people on the right channels. How do we do this? So I'm really excited because Lee has some great free persona tools from HubSpot to share with you guys.
So if you go to, we have a persona generator, which is available online. If you just go to makemypersona.com, it'll walk you through some questions, obviously, as you start to create your persona, and it'll generate a persona that you can download into a Word doc. The other option, too, we also have a template that you guys can download in PowerPoint that will give you a little bit more specifics around personas for prospective students. So just questions to think about, demographics, what do we want to create when we're thinking about our persona. The website tool will be a little bit more generic. The template download is going to be really specific to schools.
Sorry about that, I get a little behind, but here's the template offer that Lee was talking about, and we did have a question on the side I just saw. These slides will be available after the presentation, so don't feel like you need to jot down that entire URL. So our second tip to kind of leave you guys with from this presentation is to create segmented messages. So once you've created those wonderful personas and you've kind of thought through the negative personas too, who, like Lee said, who you don't want to speak to, this should be really simple. So you'll have these great benchmarks that serve as guides for those talking points you need to create, and you'll be able to really think through the messages you're conveying and how to personalize them, even in automation. A great tool for audience segmented messaging is a messaging matrix. Some messages may resonate for the same for all audiences, while others maybe need to be tailored. This is a great example from Clemson, how they kind of have their same attributes across the chart, but they tailor it versus staff to students, and even more specifically with undergrad current versus undergrad prospective students. Spreadsheets like Excel and Google Docs aren't really pretty, but they get the job done in terms of messaging matrices. So just a quick tip on some tools for building out your own message matrix.
And then I would say just another general tip, something to think about, is that every school is going to be different in the types of messages that they'll want to automate. And it all comes down to your goals as a school. So some schools I talk to, like we were talking about at the very beginning of the presentation, wouldn't know if marketing automation is going to be right for you or going to be helpful. Some schools will have a massive influx of inquiries, too many applicants, obviously a great problem to have, but you want to make sure that you're communicating to everyone effectively and in a personalized manner. those schools will have a challenge with creating content specifically with dealing with a number or too many inquiries and applicants, not too many, but just a lot. Other schools I'll talk to are really struggling there. So you just want to keep in mind what your end goal is. If you don't have enough inquiries to put into automated campaigns or to nurture, I would maybe focus on the top of the funnel, generating more web traffic, creating a content strategy with blogging or social media. So just take a really good look at your funnel, understand where you might be missing the boat or you could use some improvement on, and then try and map your content and automated messages specifically to that part of your funnel. But just be really honest with yourself and don't try and think that marketing automation is going to be a great fit for you, because you might not, depending on where you need some help in the funnel, and that's something that Converge and HubSpot can help you identify too.
And a great tool for kind of thinking through that moderation piece is really your workflow. Like Lee said, it's really important to know what your goals are and how to map those efforts. So make sure you're thinking about the funnel as you're planning these efforts, and also building out a workflow that really works for your programs. Again, they're not the prettiest thing in the world, but tools like PowerPoint and free flowchart generators online really work for generating those custom communication flows if you're just getting started. They'll help you build those strategic touch points into your automation so the conversation continues to feel authentic as we're moving students through the funnel. And of course, we need to remember that face-to-face interactions and phone calls are still really, really important. So we want to use our time with our students strategically to get them through the funnel. And if our audience trusts us that we're being open and honest, they're more likely to take those actions voluntarily anyway. So we can use calls to actions to support the student journey as they get to know our brand and decide if our institution is the right fit for them. Workflows are extremely important tools as you develop your marketing automation strategy, because they really help you create that content that leads to a user action or conversion.
And again, if we haven't made this really clear, this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So like we were talking about, you definitely, I guess I jumped the gun, you definitely need to figure out where you need help in the funnel, and then create the content that's going to help you with that. Megan, if you want to go to the next slide, we also have a tool called a database decay calculator, which you can find on HubSpot at that URL. And basically what this tool is going to do is kind of show you, based on your current metrics, if it would make sense to put marketing automation into place. And the point of it, what we want to look at is if you have a large enough database to start with. Usually at HubSpot, we recommend at least a database of 10,000 contacts or so to start automating messages to. Or obviously, if you have a good content strategy in place and you think that you're going to get there pretty quickly, having something in place, a marketing automation strategy in place prior to getting to that number, it's fine too. But the idea is if you start automating a lot of your email campaigns and your email messages specifically to a smaller-ish database, and you're not generating enough leads to feed that database, your marketing automation strategy is going to kill it. So on average, your database is going to expire at a rate of about 25% year over year. For schools, that might even be faster. There hasn't been a study done on specifically how databases decay year over year for schools. If you have the time, if you have the research team, I might challenge you guys to thinking about how your database decays year over year, specifically for your institution. But obviously, people will become less interested. They'll choose other programs. People change email addresses. Again, it kind of goes back to what type of program, what type of school you have. But the rule of thumb is 25% year over year. So if you're not adding 25% of that to net new leads, net new prospective students, you're going to put something in place and it's going to kill your database. And in 4 years from now, you're going to have nothing. So this tool, you can plug in the current size of your database, the number of monthly visits you get to your website, and the percentage of visitors that you convert into prospective students. And it will show you, the gray line will show you how it will decay over time if you're not using inbound marketing strategies or content marketing strategies, including marketing automation. And then the orange line would show you on average, based on what our customers see for success rates, what your database would look like over the next few years if you did put marketing automation and inbound marketing strategies into place.
Thanks, Lee. So Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know we're wrapping up a little bit early here, but we've got some great time at the end for questions, so feel free to keep those coming in. We just hope that we left you with some kind of takeaways, and hopefully these case studies are helpful when you go to implement your own marketing automation efforts.